Once upon a time, in a small village, there was a legend of a cursed jack-o'-lantern. The villagers would tell tales of a certain face that, when carved into a pumpkin, would bring about a terrible future. The legend began when a farmer, desperate for a bountiful harvest, carved the cursed face into a pumpkin in hopes of bringing good luck to his crops. But instead of a bountiful harvest, his crops withered and died, and a great storm swept through the village, destroying homes and lives. From that day on, the cursed jack-o'-lantern face became known as a symbol of misfortune and bad luck. Every year, as Halloween approached, the villagers would whisper warnings to each other, cautioning against the carving of the cursed face. Despite the warnings, a young boy, in a fit of mischief, carved the cursed face into a pumpkin. On Halloween night, a great fire broke out in the village, destroying many homes and taking the lives of several villagers. The legend of the cursed jack-o'-lantern face spread far and wide, and it was said that those who dared to carve it would suffer the consequences of their actions. And so, the cursed face was never carved again, and the village lived in peace and prosperity. But even to this day, on Halloween night, some say they can still see the cursed face, etched into the darkness, a warning of the terrible future that awaits those who are brave enough to carve it. As the years passed, the legend of the cursed jack-o'-lantern face became nothing more than a distant memory for most villagers. But one day, a curious young boy asked his grandfather why the pumpkin was considered evil. His grandfather, now an old man, sighed and decided to tell the boy the truth. "The pumpkin was not evil, my child," he said. "It was simply always right. It knew the consequences of our actions before we did, and it would reveal them to us through its carving." The boy was confused and asked for an explanation. The grandfather continued, "You see, the farmer who first carved the cursed face into the pumpkin did so in hopes of bringing good luck to his crops. But in reality, his land was too dry and poor for crops to thrive. The pumpkin, through its carving, showed him the truth, and the farmer was able to change his ways and find a more suitable livelihood." The boy listened intently, trying to understand. "But what about the fire and the storm?" he asked. "Ah, yes," the grandfather said. "Those were also warnings. The fire was caused by the villagers' neglect of their own safety, and the storm was a reminder to always be prepared for the unexpected. The pumpkin was never evil, it was always trying to help us. It's just that we were too afraid to listen." The boy looked at his grandfather with wide eyes, understanding the truth of the matter. From that day on, the boy always remembered the lessons of the cursed jack-o'-lantern, and he lived his life with the knowledge that sometimes the things that frighten us the most are the things that can ultimately help us the most. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking the video and subscribe to be notified of freshly baked, frightfully generic stories.